Great to have you with us. In our first story, some teacher unions, including NAGRAT, NAT, TEU, and CCTGH, are demanding the immediate withdrawal of some 3 educational bills which are currently laid before Parliament in what they claim is a deliberate move by government to exclude them from policy engagement surrounding the bills. The Pre-Tertiary Education Bill 2019, Education Regulatory Bill 2019, and the Complementary Education Bill 2019 are to be deliberated on by the House and its eventual passage. According to these teacher unions, they are yet to see the bills and ask that copies are made available to them for study and required input. The leadership of the teacher unions added that they would advise themselves if government ignores their requests. President of NAT, Philippa Larson, spoke on behalf of the unions.
The attention of the unions has been drawn to the bills, and there are 3. The Pre-Tertiary Education Bill 2019, Education Regulatory Bill 2019, and the Complementary Education Bill 2019, all of which have been laid before Parliament without inputs from or engagement with the unions. We find this inimical to the ILO UNESCO recommendations concerning the status of teachers in 1966, which encourages social dialogue. Brothers and sisters of the media, the stance of the Ministry of Education is again against the spirit and the letter of our 2009 collective agreement with the Ghana Education Service, as well as the Labour Act 2003, Act 651. We wish to remind the Ministry of Education of the preamble to the 2009 collective agreement, which enjoins parties to it, not to be both anti-union and anti-management to each other, but rather recognize and agree to promote trust, respect, fairness, and endeavor to uphold these virtues in their policies and standards and entreat government to stick to it. Failure to consult, therefore, came to us as a shock and disbelief, since the unions have been requesting for the draft education bills since 2017. Unfortunately, not only did the Ministry of Education ignore the unions, but also decided to forward the bills to Parliament without any inputs from the unions. This has far-reaching implications on the education service, as provided for in Article 190 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, on teachers and the teaching profession as a whole. Friends from the press, we find the stance of the Ministry of Education unfortunate and wish to register our strongest protest against it, and hereby stress to the need to uphold cooperation, trust, respect, fairness, and collaboration between the Ministry of Education and the unions, as well as endeavor to include these virtues in all our dealings with each other as brothers and sisters striving for the same cause. It is in this spirit of social dialogue that the unions, which are social partners and critical stakeholders in the education enterprise, have consistently called for engagement on the process since 2017 to come out with a document which will be acceptable by all and to assist with the implementation of the laws when passed. We are by this press conference notifying Parliament and humbly requesting for the suspension of the 3 bills, asking that copies of the bills be made available to us for our study, analysis, and required inputs to make it holistic before deliberations on the bills would commence. We fear that failure to suspend the bills will disturb the industrial peace we are all enjoying. In conclusion, we caution that should Parliament not heed our call, but go ahead with the discussion and eventual passage of the bills, leadership of the unions will not be able to control the actions and inactions of our members, and the Ministry of Education may have itself to blame in the end. we wish to sound further that the unions will resist the three bills in no uncertain terms and hereby serve notice to this effect.
Still in education, lack of adequate storage facilities as well as limited supervision and monitoring have been identified as major challenges militating against the smooth implementation of the Ghana School Feeding Program GSFP across the country. The situation has made way for several malpractices, including the refusal by caterers to purchase farm produce from local farmers as stipulated by law. Executive Officer for Save Our Environment Foundation, Collins Osei, says government should buy the farm produce from the local farmers, store and later sell them to school feeding caterers in order to give ready markets for the farmers.
We have done a lot of research countrywide to find out why the caterers are not purchasing the foodstuffs from the local farmers. And from our research, we have identified that lack of monitoring is just a problem to the people. Also, we saw that the caterers have not been paid at the regular times. So they find it difficult to get money to purchase it from the local farmers. And so we are today doing a sensitization program with the people to let them know the outcomes of their research and also take their views as well, and then package it and meet the stakeholders to discuss the problems and look at the way forward of the project.
Now, Wenchi Municipal Director of Agriculture, Victor Yao Dablo, suggested that the various MMDAs should be made to pay the caterers so that monitoring and supervision will be much more effective.
The problem currently now is the cooks are being paid directly from Accra instead of the district assemblies paying them. So it becomes a problem how to check. So it makes the desk officers in charge of the school feeding program redundant in a way. The reason is the desk officer will go and do his or her monitoring. But at the end of the day, Accra pays directly. So whether the cooks are doing the right thing or not, there's a break in the chain. But if the assemblies start paying them as it started, monitoring will be effective. Then if the person doesn't use local food, like the local rice, which is the fragrance one, the Agra rice, which is very good, which are easily on the market, that will go a long way in alleviating the poverty situation of our peasant farmers. That will solve the problem.
Now, the Gender Minister Cynthia Morrison has condemned all forms of sexual harassment meted out against women. Her comments followed the release of the Sex for Grades documentary by the BBC. Speaking as the Mise Press series in Accra, the minister said the incident recorded as the University of Ghana is wrong and anyone found culpable should be dealt with. JoyNews' Ernest Menu is at the news
information
conference
as well
and joins me on the line with details. Ernest, what does the minister want to be done with the alleged perpetrators?
Well, Daniel, first of all, she points me to the domestic victim violence law. I'm not sure how that deals comprehensively with sexual harassment, but she points us to that and says that for the time being, that is the law we have. However, she believes that at various institutions at all levels, there are policies that, talk about sexual harassment or deal with it, and she would expect that whenever such issues come up, the laws or regulations are applied accordingly.
What plan is her ministry putting in place to prevent these from happening?
Well, she wasn't very specific on that, except to say that over the time they have tried with various policies to encourage girls, first of all, to empower them to come up to report such issues, but also to encourage people it properly and not to harass women and even the men in some cases. And so for her, her ministry, together with other agencies, will look at how to deal with this going forward in a very comprehensive manner. She didn't give us much details except to condemn what has happened or what has been happening, and to admonish girls and also the predators to be on the lookout, because the law will come hunting them.
What other issues has the minister been talking about?
Well, the issue of trafficking that came up today at the Midday press series, Daniel, and the minister revealed that out of the 332 people who were trafficked in 2018, 252 actually were children and 80 were adults. And some of these people, about just 4 have been reunited with their family. There's also the issue of livelihood empowerment, LEAP, and how it's been expanded to capture a lot more people. 260 MMDAs to ensure timely submission of reports so that they can easily disburse funds to the beneficiary of this program. So there were a wide range of issues, including the affirmative action bill, which she says has been finalized, reviewed, and will be submitted to Cabinet for approval and subsequently to Parliament for passage.
Now, the committee responsible for investigating cases of sexual harassment at the University of Ghana says it has widened the scope of its probe into the current Sex for Grades scandal to cover all lecturers. Last night, chairperson of the Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee of the University of Ghana called on all students who may have fallen victim to any case of sexual harassment to file an official complaint.
Student says that I go to the class and I feel intimidated. Fortunately for us, especially at the undergraduate level, you have courses that are split into about 2 or 3. So you move from lecturer A to lecturer B, which is a possibility. In cases where the student has said that I was making A's until this man started making advances, starting at making a C, your script, the entire script, is taken out of his hand, given to somebody else to grade. And so they are protected. Because, you know, when the person knows that the spotlight is on me for all the negative reasons, they tend to be more cautious. But if you have not reported them, then they go on doing what they want to do. And you are the victim and you continue being victimized.
Did this particular, it was advertised as Sex for Grades.
Yeah.
You've watched it. Did you see Sex for Grades in there?
Well, I think many people have commented on that. But nonetheless, I mean, the simple answer is no. At least not as it involves Ghana. But it doesn't mean that this is not a serious issue to investigate, because our policy has been breached in the sense that all the definitions of sexual harassment and misconduct, if you are misconducting yourself in a way that is, I mean, it was inappropriate for you to be seeking all the things that we saw in the video. And so the policy itself is breached. And then we also have the code of conduct, okay, or code of ethics of members, senior members of the university, that is also breached. It is, I think, based on those that the university decided to interdict and then to let investigations go on and be sure that we actually investigate something out of this. You cannot take a decisive decision on somebody when you haven't heard them. And so we want to hear them. The documentary is like the first point at which we receive something to work with. The next thing is to invite people who think that they have been victimized in times past or they are currently being victimized to come forward. So
so that's an interesting point. I saw it in the cinema. I was asking, what do you mean? What you're saying is that you're going to ask people who may have encountered these 2 lecturers before or have similar
others, or any others,
to come forward.
Come forward. Come forward. Because we really want a congenial atmosphere where learning can take place, where teaching can take place without intimidation, without anybody feeling that they are violated, you know. And so how best to do it than to invite people who have suffered anything from anybody's hands to come forward for us to take up the matter.
You're clearly going beyond the BBC documentary here.
Oh, but we have been working before the BBC documentary. So
I mean, in probing these 2 lecturers, you're going beyond what the BBC has shown.
Oh, certainly if there's anything to investigate, why not?
So what you're saying is that if there's anybody out there who believes, because BBC claims that they targeted the 2 lecturers because of reports that they got.
Exactly. So we want to confirm those reports.
Okay. So if there's anybody out there who spoke to the BBC and said these two lecturers had done, come forward. Is that what you're saying?
Who did not even speak to the BBC but went through the same kind of situation and has evidence to prove that this happened, because we don't want any witch hunting to take place. But come forward if you have evidence to show that during your 4 years stay at the University of Ghana, this thing happened to you, and this is the evidence.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has confirmed James Opombueno as substantive Inspector General of Police with a 2-year contract extension. His confirmation comes months after he was appointed acting IGP after the exit of David Asante-Apietu. Speaking in an interview earlier today, security expert Adam Bona expressed optimism about the new appointment, saying the new Inspector General of Police presents a better hope of having a police service who will be more professional and disciplined in their public engagements than earlier perceived and needs the support of all.
Within the current crop of COPs, commissioners of police, he's the most qualified when it comes to police service administration. And therefore, he brings to the table somebody who has a very long service when it comes to working in various portfolios, within the legal department of the Ghana Police Service and working at various, locations when it comes to police administration. When he was made acting IGP, he kind of took some very swift actions, which some of us interpreted to mean something else. But then if he's going to continue in that tangent, then chances are that the kind of brutality some section of the Ghana police would usually met out to citizens would come down. The kind of unprofessional conduct of some of the police officers would come down, because then you would have an IGP who would not, would not worry too much if he has to crack the whip. If you look at the Lakeside District Commander, he was interdicted for putting someone in custody for more than the mandatory 48 hours. When he became the acting IGP, he swiftly paid a visit to the family of the victims, and console them and promise them they were working at speed to resolve this matter. And indeed, the issue has been resolved. When I say resolved, it's brought something that looks like finality to this case in the east, in the western region when it comes to the Takoradi missing. And now we know that they were kidnapped and probably they've lost their lives. Whatever views some of us probably had with regards to him being in an acting position or being in the deputy IG position now is irrelevant. We have to support him, because crime fighting, we have to remember, has to do with perception. And therefore, if you are talking about perception, then it means that all of us would have to support him, the rank and file. And he would have to lead by bringing along all the police officers who he superintends over.
Now, the Upper West branch of the Coalition of Rotation Nurses and Midwives for 2019-2020 is accusing government of delaying in paying allowances due them working as national service personnel. The delay, according to them, has worsened their plight. The convener of the coalition addressed a news conference in the Upper West region, from where Rafiq Salam reports.
According to the Upper West branch of the Coalition of 2019-2020 Rotation Nurses and Midwives, they started the mandatory national service in April 2019 with colleagues from across the country. The national service postings were done randomly, irrespective of your geographical location or preference. They were therefore posted to various hospitals within the country. On arrival at their various facilities, they faced myriad of challenges, which included accommodation, paying of utility bills, feeding, and transportation to workplaces, and many others. Despite these challenges they are grappling with, they claimed the government has refused to pay their service allowance after working for over 6 months. Sultan Fabian is the convener of the group.
We would like the government to tell us
what crime we have committed to deserve this kind of punishment and callous and uncompassionate treatment. Again, we would like the government to tell us whether the nurses and midwives mandatory national service is no more relevant to this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a saying that empty sacks do not stand upright, and that a hungry nurse is an angry nurse and a potential killer. Let's think about the above statement and juxtapose the undesirable situations of these personnel against their very critical roles in the provision of quality service.
The 2019-2020 rotation nurses and midwives are also not happy with the way the Ministry of Health is dealing with issues relating to their financial clearance.
A follow-up was made to the Ministry of Health by some representatives to find out why the delay in release of financial clearance and when it would be released. Accordingly, a document which the Human Resource Manager at the Ministry of Health said was the clearance was given to one of them to be read to the hearing of the rest. In the said document, it was stated that a total of 8,062 nurses and midwives have been cleared across the country. The said clearance was dated 1st April 2019 and will expire in December 2019. Friends.
Now, away from that, millers at the Mokola markets, directed by AMA sanitation inspectors to improve conditions around their mills, have complied. A return to the facilities this morning as part of the Joy Clean Ghana campaign revealed the mills which used to be run in unhygienic conditions are now being operated in a clean environment. Here's Inspector Joseph Asetanga interacting with the millers. We will be hearing from Inspector Asetanga, but my colleague Nancy Emefa Jodosi is with the Clean Ghana campaign team and joins us on the line. Nancy, a lot of good news for the team today.
Well, Daniel, we've left the Makola market where last week we visited and we found all sorts of materials. So if you remember, we had people, milling corn together with lime, others blending some seeds together with pepper to make it a lot. We found them working under very insanitary conditions. So they had their wires hanging loosely, they had their floors non-cemented, muddy, with barefoot, they had their dirty clothes hanging, cockroaches all over the place. Today when we visited, the team found something different. But I want to find out from Madam, the Director for Public Health, Madam Florence Kuchi, why we decided to go back. Because I know people have been calling you about, if you leave, what next? So why did you decide to go back today?
Yeah, it is not just today we are going back. That is our mandate as an environmental health officer. When you visit a place and you detect a nuisance, you give an abatement notice. So it is your duty to go back to see that the nuisance has been abated. That is why we went back there to see whether they have abated the nuisances that we detected the other week that we were there.
And when we went there, what did you find? Were you impressed with what you saw?
Yeah, actually, at some of the places I was impressed because, and the people themselves were impressed. The place was and we've given them a caution that should any of them break the shops, they are going to be in trouble. Next week, Tuesday, we will take them to court. And when we are going to court, we are going to go with you to the court so that you see how court proceedings is going to take place at cost on those people before we come back to continue with the work.
Even after the meals, I realized that we came around to some restaurants. What did we find? Impressions?
Yeah, we came around some restaurants purposely for food time. We came around, especially some of the kitchens were not neat, and then we asked them.
Apologies for the slight technical hiccup there. We'll re-establish that connection as soon as we are able to. Still live on JoyNews today with me, Daniel Daze. We'll be right back.
on up. Look, Aisha, Chief Financial Controller of Operations. The whole market circle. Everybody know Aisha. First, now Aisha no get crowd too. Every day then she for go bank. Today be water bill. Tomorrow cash deposit. Next week be picking school fees. Meanwhile, that is today she know the sell itself. But now, levels don't change. Aisha they pay bills, then transfer cash all for the EcoBank mobile laptop. You can buy for a shopper. Shabu. You scan, then you move. Aisha be big woman.
Pay your bills and receive payments like a boss with the EcoBank mobile app.
Oh yeah, download the EcoBank app, make we go.
EcoBank, the Pan-African bank.
Now in business, Ghanaian businesses will soon be able to list and trade on the Ghana Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange. The two parties are currently finalizing an agreement to facilitate the move. The deal is part of a broader initiative to build a strong partnership between the two exchanges. Adam Efriye is the UK Prime Minister's trade envoy to Ghana.
Ghanaian businesses, where appropriate, will be able to have dual listings, both in the UK, on the London Stock Exchange, and also Ghana Stock Exchange. So I think that what the whole project is designed to bring the expertise to the Ghana Stock Exchange that we have in the UK, but also to bring those vast amounts of capital and resource, non-government capital and resource, into the Ghanaian market. So it really is a high-level project which will have local impact on the ground very, very quickly when you see UK, when you see Ghanaian companies funded through these new mechanisms. And again, that's part of the transition away from aid, where people are going cup in hand, help us out, to actually, no, we are equal partners. You want to invest in our businesses, then you do it through the London Stock Exchange, through the Ghana Stock Exchange, and people can invest in Ghanaian businesses in the same way that people invest in businesses across the world. The point is that what we can bring with our expertise is the ability to have any type of bond, if you like, that the market demands. But the reason I mention a diaspora bond, this is not an official policy. The reason I mention it is because I see the number of Ghanaians, or people of Ghanaian heritage in Britain, in America, in Germany, across the globe. And at the moment, there's no really easy mechanism to invest in the Ghanaian stock, in the Ghanaian companies, or to invest in Ghanaian bonds. So I think that this collaboration with the London Stock Exchange will open up that whole avenue.
Now, the Energy Commission says uncertified electricians still pose a danger to life and property as contractors and other property developers continue to engage them in breach of the law. Associate Programs Manager Fred Ejay-Brobe says they are intensifying an outreach to educate customers on safety standards. Nana Sentimenta has more.
From January 2020, clients who fail to engage certified electricians for domestic and industrial wiring and other electrical works will not be connected to the national grid. This is to ensure standardized services to guarantee fire safety in homes and workplaces. Mr. Ejay-Brobe explains further.
Now, with the help of the distribution utilities, only facilities that have been certified or that have been wired by CWP and certified by an inspector will receive service connection. We had made an arrangement for facilities that were not wired by certified practitioners. That's from 2013, and that arrangement will end on the 31st December 2019. The arrangement is facilities that were not wired by certified professionals can only be connected to the distribution network when they have they would have to get the services of an inspector to go and inspect their facility, make recommendations, and then the recommendations be carried out by a CWP. When the CWP has finished carrying out these recommendations and they certify that the facility is safe, then the distribution utility can go ahead and give the service connection to such a facility.
The Energy Commission has certified nearly 9,000 electricians and wiring inspectors since the program began nationwide 6 years ago. One of the graduates of the latest group shares his experience.
Without the certificate, I was limited because when I'm going to go for a contract, because of the certificate that I don't have, I can't go. But with now, I know with a certificate, I can go for contract. Now I can do instrumentation on my own. But initially, I was not able to do because right now they have taught me how to use the instrument to get those values that we need to get to certify works. Like when you take like the earth electrode, we normally call it earth rod or the earthing system. Initially, people don't know that it's very, very effective in the electrical system because it's the backbone of the whole installation. So right now, with the instrument that I've been able to learn, I can do proper wiring and proper installation.
For Joy News, Nana Asensumensa, Kumasi.
That's live on Joy News today. That's it for business. Up next is sports.